got my chapters written. I've got my introduction written, but I'm not feeling that confident with it. So what I'm going to do today is print it off and read through it, because I don't know why I like reading it from paper. I see the mistakes more.
Yeah, absolutely, and do that. Sounds great. And I always do it when I'm writing a paper. I always print it off and go. As you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's something
That's a really good idea, actually.
There's something about printing it off, sitting with a cup of coffee, and just going through it with a bit of quiet, and going, oh, I don't remember writing that, or oh.
When you were looking at it on
good.
the screen, I don't know, the screen kind of blinds you a little bit.
But also, you're seeing, when you're looking on the screen, you're not seeing the whole thing. You're only ever seeing part of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So when you see it written off, printed off and written, and you can go through it, do you feel that you've got something? What you said you didn't feel that confident about it. What particularly?
I think my writing skills I haven't been feeling that confident about this time round.
In what sense?
Because I haven't started writing last time we met.
All right.
When I've started writing, I kind of feel a lot more confident with where I'm going to go next.
Right, okay.
And how it's going to look. I'm still a bit confused though, because with the lit review, everybody's telling me that we need a lit review. I've been writing my chapters.
That's all right.
Kind of like, so I'll write a bit about it, and then so similar to a lit review where I'm bringing in
There's two ways
authors.
of doing it. As long as you have reviewed literature, one of the ways we try and get you all to do it is to do it in a chunk and then perhaps follow on. Not everybody does it in that way, and that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as you're interrogating the literature and demonstrating that you're doing that, that's fine. But nobody should feel that because they're not doing it all in exactly the same way, that the way you're doing it is wrong. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What about your argument? Are you making a sustained argument throughout what you're writing?
I kind of think that my conclusion and my argument is going to be now that we need a lot more representation of all kind of forms of masculinity. So
Okay, that's nice.
So I'm going to write about how it's changed and developed over time. So I've got a lot of research into that, and after kind of researching loads into it, I've come to the conclusion really that we do need more representation of minority groups, because it's having a knock-on effect towards everyone. So that's kind of the way I'm going to lead to now.
It's really interesting that minority groups aren't necessarily even minority groups. It's just because of the lack of representation that they believe that it's a minority group, when in fact it's actually not.
It's just regular, isn't it? It's regular people doing regular things, but not represented in a... What I think is one of the interesting things that's come out about the Harvey Weinstein thing is masculine power. But the way in which he bullied so many people, it's almost like he didn't distinguish between who he was bullying. So, what's the point I'm making? So what we've got is a sort of, when you look at sort of the history of award-winning films, what you've got is Harvey Weinstein rather than films that have merit.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things I can't remember why I was saying that, but minorities, don't know. One of the things I was just thinking as you were talking, have you got, if you talk about masculinity, are you thinking about men who, the thing that I'm interested in is asexual people?
Asexual people? I haven't looked into asexuality.
At all? All right,
So I might have
we'll have a think. I could just think of, because patriarchy and masculinity is so heavily bound by sex. I think that's where it's going with the Harvey Weinstein thing. It's so heavily bound by sex that we don't take into account people who don't engage with sex because sex is power. Just it may not work, and that's fine. And don't look at don't just stick it in. But
it's nice to have an explore just for extra kind of knowledge, I guess.
Or not? We'll have a look at it.
Okay.
So are you able to sustain your argument throughout? Do you think?
I think so, yeah.
Because that's what we're thinking now with all your dissertations. Are you making a sustained argument, or have you got chapters that sort of sit on their own and don't really contribute to the argument as a whole? That's where I want you to be thinking this week. Are you able to make a sustained argument? Yeah? Catherine, do you want to go next? What are your thoughts?
I think I was doing loads of research and loads of reading and enjoying that. But then
Which is fine.
Yeah, but I think that I was also kind of really putting off on actually sitting down and writing.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know really. I think I was just
Did you feel like you had to read everything before you could start?
I felt like I could never read enough things.
And there's
I
no
needed
way
to
you
have
could
all
start?
of my quotes before I could start.
All right.
But I have started. And it is going slowly, but it is going.
Good. Good.
I want to be able to submit a lot. So if I
Okay.
can,
Yeah, for sure.
as much as I can, just so that it'll be like this is rubbish.
But remember I sent a message out last week to say, can everybody think about what they want feedback on? Okay, so what I'm not giving feedback on is your grammar and spelling. I will say if that's an issue, but I'm looking for application of theory, sustained argument, and that kind of thing. Okay, can you write in your blog, your learning journal entry, about the way in which you're going about it as well? Can you remind yourselves to keep doing that? Yeah, so at the end in January, when you're just looking over your dissertation and seeing that it looks nice and writing your abstracts, you're just collecting your blog posts together and writing them together in 1,000 words. Yeah, so that you've got like a sustained approach to reflection. Yeah, how what did you change and why? So you did this thing where you got to a point where you were like, I can't really start yet, I can't start yet. You were similar, James, as well, weren't you? Where you were like, no, I've just got to read everything. What about you with your writing?
Well, I started off pretty well, and I was writing like 1,000 words a week, and I was like doing fine.
That's right, you were doing the 1,000 words a week, which is fantastic amount.
But like last week, I kind of hit a wall, and I think I just burnt myself out of it.
All right.
So,
and the words you were writing, are they were you worried, because you were worried about hitting the word count as well and feeling that you had enough to say? Is that...
not really, no.
Didn't you say in the first week you had this idea that, sorry, and I don't want to say you said this, you said something about, now I know it's a series of essays I'm putting together.
Yes, yeah. That's like made it so much more easy to like hit my targets that I'm setting myself.
All right. And how's your argument?
So far I've mostly been writing about the history of gender and like people's fights for equality and stuff.
Which is a substantial part of your dissertation,
which is the first chapter.
Right.
And I've pretty much finished that. I've just got to finish writing about the suffragettes, and then that's chapter 1 finished. But I'm also struggling, like with the introduction. You have to put like what sort of literature you're looking at.
It would help in the introduction to guide the reader as to the areas that you've been examining.
Yeah, because the issue I was having with that is because I've only looked at what I'm doing for chapter 1 so far.
Right.
If I'm writing the introduction about stuff that I'm putting in chapter 2 or 3, I haven't looked at the literature for that yet.
Then you need to.
Okay.
You need to, because I think at this stage what we need is an overview, really. It's fine that you've got an introduction and a chapter already.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. But we also need to think about, this is what I'm saying about a sustained argument. What are you going to say in the other chapters that contributes to your argument?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I've got like a skeleton of what I.
Oh no, I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, you need to say, we need to have a look at it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But so try not to, I think with yours, and similar to all of you really, is that you've got such quite a large body of work to get through, to sort of come out the other side with, well, what's your perspective on this? Yeah, and how do these things contribute to your argument? Try not to get too bound up in the or too focused on this is the historical bit, or this is the contextualizing bit, which of course we need. But we also need to say, well, so what's it contextualizing for?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, what points are you going to be making in the rest of the dissertation?
Yeah.
So what I don't want you to don't lose sight of your argument in each chapter. Yeah, and what you need to think about is what contribution is each chapter making to your argument. So you've got your historical section, that's giving historical context to arguments, isn't it? Yeah?
Yeah.
So what's the next chapter going to do, and how's that going to contribute to your argument? Because sometimes there's a tendency to just write some stuff and you've gone away from your argument a little bit, or your idea. All the time you're thinking, okay, how does this relate to what I'm doing? Is this context? What am I doing in this chapter? And keep saying that to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. What you also need to do, and I might send this in an email to you. It might help you, therefore, and is good practice. I would like to see at the start of each chapter an introduction to the chapter, telling us an overview. What's going to be a little introduction to each chapter? What's going to be in this chapter? Why is it there? What's it doing? And then what's in the next chapter? An introduction. What's it doing? And then at the end of each chapter, you need to have a little conclusion to take you into the next chapter, because it has to flow. Okay, it's so, because you're so focused on what you're doing, it's really hard to do these bits. Really quite difficult, because you're like, right, this needs to go there, and you're moving things around. But so that's what I'm saying. Sustained arguments throughout. Introduce each chapter. What's it going to do?
Okay.
And the more you do that, the more you remind yourself, the more you will have a sustained argument. I'll write that in a note and send it to you in an email, I think. That might that be useful, yeah?
How many words would you recommend those to be, like the short little introductions to each chapter?
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of up to you. What I don't want to do is when I get to a chapter, not know what's in it. I've turned the page over, and then I'm thinking, or scroll down the screen to take your point, James, and I'm thinking, okay, they've just talked about this, and now they're talking about something else, and I don't know why. They haven't told me why. Why are we suddenly talking about this?
Right, okay.
And then you go back to the contents, you say, right, well, I can see what's supposed to be in each chapter, but I need to read it as I'm going along.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah? Just remind yourself of that. It's not repetition. Okay? I hear this from students a lot. They're worried about repeating yourselves.
I was about to question that, like, in our introduction, if I explain information about each of the theories, if then in the chapters, do I then have to re-explain the theory again?
Your introduction should, maybe introduce the theories a little bit, but the depth about them should be in the chapters. Yeah? If you're using a theoretical perspective, let's have that in the introduction. Yeah? I'm just reminding myself on what I did with my level 4 students last week. Let's just get it up on Moodle. It was quite a nice example of come on, computer. Honestly. We did a reading last week where in the abstract it says, I'm addressing this thing, this one particular issue in the following 3 ways. So that's the way you can write in your introductions, and then you do them, you build on them. So it's the mark in skirts. Do you remember reading that mark in skirts, James?
Yeah, I can't.
Maybe.
I remember it because I've got it in amongst all of my notes.
Yeah, it's in the abstract, but it's a really useful thing for you. So he says, I'm examining. Oh, Mark Jacobs wearing a skirt. Jacobs' ensemble is analysed through the following concepts: the Western dress code, laces of feminine textile, unisex looks, and gender-bending styles of cross-dresses. So what he's saying is, those 4 concepts, those theoretical areas, are going to be addressed. But it's in his abstract, and it's quite short and pithy. But you can have that in your introduction in that way, and then in your chapters, there's a chapter on each, for example. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you want this?
Yeah. More reading, more information, send it to me.
It's difficult because it's in an abstract, and I don't want to. Some people came one week and they'd all written abstracts, and I never asked anybody to write an abstract, so I was really confused as to where all that had come from. Or people were spending all their time writing abstract. It's not you, is it? You haven't been doing that.
Oh, no.
No. I didn't ask anybody to do it, but they'd all come having done it, or spending all their time trying to write this instead of that, which just freaked me out completely. So I'll send you that. But that's the way to do it. And again, the more journal articles you read, the more you realise journal articles are really useful because they are a way of helping you think about how to set out your dissertation. You're not writing a journal article, but most journal articles are set out in a way that your dissertation would appear. So you've got abstract, you've got introduction, then there's a bit of lit review, or it goes on to the argument, then you've got bits of lit review throughout. Again, really useful for you. But if I'm just saying, write an introduction for each chapter, and you said, Suzanne, how long are these going to be?
Yeah.
Some lines.
Okay.
And then
just like 100 words or so.
You're quite number orientated, whereas in my mind I don't really know what 100 words looks like.
Right.
So maybe 100 words is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. But also at the end of it, you want to conclude your chapter and then move on to the next bit in your writing. And it could be things like, in conclusion, this chapter has addressed these things. The next chapter will look at these things in a different way. Then you go into it again and say, so this chapter examines this in this way. So you've got continuity,
Okay.
all right? And it's not repetition, you're guiding the reader, right? It also, I'm quite aware this sounds more difficult than it actually is. You're probably already thinking about doing these things unconsciously,
Right.
I imagine. Because what you're not doing is just writing something on its own. You're putting things together. So 2 things then. So first of all, you need to have a sustained argument, okay? And the way to think is, how does each chapter or section contribute to the idea as a whole? And then secondly, in order to help you do this, write an introduction for chapter. What's it doing? How is it contributing to the argument? So that's structuring. You're structuring your work, okay? You're not just, none of you are just writing some random stuff. You're thinking about the way this bit comes before or after this bit. and all the time think to yourself, what's this chapter doing? What do I need it to do? Yeah? Does that, again, I think that actually, to say that sounds harder than what it is you're doing, because I think you're just going through it and doing it anyway, aren't you?
Can you also, like, say you're halfway through a chapter and you come across a point, but you want to explore that point further in the next chapter? Can you go like?
That'll be explored in the next
Yeah,
chapter, of
can you write
course.
that? Okay.
Of course you can, of course.
And also,
Just as long as you tell the reader what's going on.
okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, go on.
And also, when we submit it, has it got to be a maximum of 3,000 words, the first draft? Can it be more? And also, I'm writing kind of a little bit scattered because I'll get an idea which I want to write in the second chapter, so I'll jump to the second chapter and
Right.
write that paragraph.
It can be more,
Yeah.
yeah? But it's not a draft, it's work in progress.
Okay.
Okay, we as a university, we don't mark drafts.
Okay.
Because then that's us sort of doing the work for you, where we say, no, completely rewrite it and change it, blah, blah, blah. What I'm doing is giving you feedback on your work in progress.
Okay.
That's what when I sent out the email, was it last week or the week before? If you start, if you write on your document, Ashley, I want you to look at these things in this way for me, then that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if it's a little bit scattered now when I submit it, is that okay?
Yeah, because I know that. Do I not know that? Or you tell me?
Okay, I'll warn you in advance. then.
Call me in
Like,
advance.
would it help if we because if we've got chapter headings now, put in all the chapter headings and then just say you've written chapter 2 and haven't done any chapter 1 yet. Like still have the headings in. but
If you
just-
want me to comment on your structure, yeah, what I want you to do is tell me what you want feedback on. Does this look okay? And then, as you say, it is fine. But also, bear in mind, you know what's going to be in your chapters rather than me. Because sometimes I have students say, shall I put this in this chapter? What about, and I'm like, well, I don't know. What do you think? Because you're in it. Yeah? Blog.
Yeah.
Have you written any of your
I've got
blog?
some drafts,
All right.
but I haven't,
Remember, you said in the first week all that nice stuff about breaking it down, like we said about smaller essays, putting
Yeah.
together a large piece of work. That's the kind of thing that needs to be in your blog. Yeah. How are you getting on with it? How's it going? This week I was stuck. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. Go on, you can ask me a question.
Pardon?
Were you going to ask me a question, or were you going to run away?
I've got mind block.
It's all right. Don't worry. Has anybody used the questionnaire?
Yeah.
Any good?
Yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah.
For just thinking more about what I'm actually been doing.
Because you're so in the content, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes. This is what I'm saying about, I think now let's take a step back and think about structuring your work. Don't forget that your chapters are contributing to an overall argument. Don't forget that you need to tell us what's happening. Tell us what's happening. I'm going on, this point is raised here, but in the next chapter I'm going to really address it. Say all that, that's fine. That's fine. You all look like you're going to cry. I don't know, is it just a tough time of year? Or are you okay?
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah.
Don't say it's okay if it's not.
No, it is okay.
Good.
I need to just
You've got over the...
sit and write.
Right, sit and write it, keep writing.
Yeah.
For the 31st, write me a little note at the top.
Yeah.
Fine. Can you just look at this for me? This is what I want feedback on. I'm desperate for feedback on my argument.
Yeah.
Am I using theories all right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm just double checking before I forget about it. The introduction can be in first person, can't it?
A part of the introduction,
Okay.
not the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay? And the part that I want you to just have in your own words is the bit about why you're interested in the subject, why it's an important subject to you, and maybe if it does, which it doesn't have to, maybe how it impacts on your own practice.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I was just
But
checking.
the entire thing should not be in the first person.
Yeah. Okay.
And are you okay that you understand how third person stuff
Oh
works?
yes. Yeah. That's all fine.
Do you have more questions for me?
I don't.
James, you alright? You look like you're going to cry now. I feel terrible.
This is just me in general.
Oh,
right
you're feeling
now.
a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a slog till Christmas now.
Yeah.
I this is now you start, you need to take multivits. Honestly, I'm not kidding. You need to look after yourselves because you can't have a big period of illness now, right?
Oh, it's already hit me. I spent like 2 weeks like
You-
fresh as flu, and
yeah.
it's just being passed around the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, people in our house got it. I like went to Lidl, bought all the lemons, all the vitamins.
Wash your hands,
I
keep
have
washing your
not-
hands.
yeah.
Honestly, I can't tell you. I mean, I've had my tonsils out, so I just feel like a new person. But keep washing your hands, plenty of soap, because you can fight it, is possible. But yeah, you don't want to be suffering as well.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything specific they want to ask me? Do you feel okay? Crack something out now for feedback. Don't worry about it, just do it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't overthink it. Everybody's blog, that's the other thing. I'll just put it, if I send you all this email now, don't forget your blogs. Suzanne's got it in red, excellent work. Use the questionnaire on Moodle if it helps. Our spelling's all over the place.
Yeah, so we got another project started.
Good, good. 3 at once. That's just what we love.
Oh, that's horrible.
So,
I completely...
sorry, I think as graphic designers we have to learn to multitask like nothing else.
Yeah, to be fair.
Well, and then pick kids up from school or go and
Not
tend
have a breakdown.
go and tend to somebody and
I'm happy I don't have a family. I've replaced it with a gym.
yeah, absolutely. Why not? Gym works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'll just send this to you. Anything else? Oh, why does your Hotmail keep coming up? Catherine?
I don't know.
Doesn't work,
Is my shooter one there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, Suzanne, I always think you come from fine art. I don't know why. Just got that look about you.
Got that vibe.
Yeah, you and Megan, amusingly, but you're both in illustration,
Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
you? And then sometimes I think Megan's clearly textiles. I don't know why. Terrible. Sorry. Suzanne James.
We've just got a look about us, all the different courses. Just look at
It's
someone.
and then once I've assumed you're in a certain course, I can never put you in the right course. It's terrible. The portal is now up on Turnitin. Okay, if you want to submit early. Okay. Forgive me, it's full of spelling mistakes, but whatever. Right, is that okay? Anybody else want to run anything past me? No. Right, okay, I shall look forward to reading your work in progress, okay? As we said, if you want to write me a little note at the beginning, totally happy with that. Otherwise, I'll just read it. Yeah, I'll just read it. And